The first sight of the orbital court of the Velari took Jalen Rourke's breath away, even through the reinforced visor of his human-designed armor. Floating above the shimmering surface of a violet-hued planet, the court was a lattice of crystalline towers, connected by beams of light that pulsed gently like the heartbeat of the city itself. From a distance, it looked serene, almost fragile, but he knew better. The Velari were a civilization of intellect and precision, and what appeared delicate could be lethally efficient. Jalen's ship, the Aegis Vanguard, glided silently through the docking channels. Its polished titanium hull reflected the court's radiant towers, and for a moment he allowed himself a flicker of pride. This was not just a ship, it was humanity's statement. Humans had expanded into the stars faster than most alien races could comprehend, carving a place for themselves in a galaxy that had long underestimated them. Yet here he was, entering a court where humans were curiosities, anomalies, and sometimes dangerous experiments in their own right. The irony was not lost on him. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Jalen stepped onto the smooth platform of the Velari landing bay. His armor made him appear taller, almost otherworldly. Polished plates of adaptive alloy reflected the soft violet light, making him seem more like a moving statue than a man. This was intentional. His armor concealed the truth, the scars beneath, the countless battles, and the faint tremor of a human heart beneath layers of steel and circuitry. The Velari could see perfection, or what they thought was perfection, and that gave him leverage. Around him, alien courtiers glided on limbs that bent in ways human joints never could. Some had multiple arms, others translucent skin revealing veins of pulsating energy. They regarded him with a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled suspicion. Whispers passed through the crowd like ripples on water. Humans were rare here, and rare things were dangerous. "Commander Jalen Rourke," a melodic voice announced from the platform above. The voice belonged to Princess Elara herself, her presence radiating authority without a word of command. Her form was elegant, regal, her eyes reflecting a galaxy of understanding that humans could only dream of. She had sharp features, but her movements carried a fluidity that suggested both grace and deadly precision. Jalen bowed his head slightly. "Your Highness," he said, his voice firm despite the unease curling in his stomach. Humans were not supposed to bow in alien courts, but diplomacy was a battlefield of its own, and humility often disarmed suspicion. Elara's gaze lingered on him longer than etiquette allowed. There was an intelligence in her scrutiny that made him tense under his helmet. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but the Velari's assumptions made them dangerous in ways he could exploit. She was studying him, weighing his armor, his posture, even the way his eyes moved behind the visor. And perhaps, just perhaps, she sensed that there was more beneath the steel than what the eyes could see. The court erupted in soft murmurs as Jalen walked forward. Alien nobles floated past, their movements deliberate and precise, while their multiple eyes tracked every detail of his design. His armor adapted seamlessly to the ambient light, highlighting sleek contours where intimidation was useful and softening edges where diplomacy was required. Even the Velari's sharpest observers would find it difficult to read him. The AI embedded within the suit modulated every gesture, every blink, even the subtle rise and fall of his chest to mimic a calm, controlled being. It was the ultimate mask. Jalen reached the center of the court, a circular platform bathed in radiant violet light. He knelt, a gesture of acknowledgement rather than submission. He could feel the weight of 100 alien gazes pressing on him, testing his resolve. Every microsecond counted. A single mistake could spark distrust or, worse, hostility. Elara stepped down from her platform, her movements as fluid as flowing water. When she spoke, the court fell silent. "Commander Rourke," she said, her voice calm but authoritative. "Humans are unusual. Some call them reckless, others call them ingenious. We are curious which of these you will prove to be. But ingenuity is always our constant." This armor was his truth, and the truth it told was enough for the moment. Diplomats approached him, their voices layered with politeness and hidden challenge. One, a Velari noble with crystalline limbs, stepped close. "Your armor is fascinating," he said, his tone polite but edged with skepticism. "It conceals more than your human form. Do you think concealment is wise in a court such as this?" The noble's eyes flickered, betraying hesitation. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but to hear such reasoning from one encased in steel suggested intelligence beyond instinct. They whispered among themselves, the sound barely rising above the hum of the court. Elara's voice cut through the murmur. Your mission here is known, Commander, yet humans have always brought unpredictability. That unpredictability is both your threat and your strength. We shall see which dominates. Humans were strange to them, not just flesh and blood, but beings capable of improvisation, courage, and unanticipated strategies. They underestimated him because he was human, and that underestimation was a weapon he intended to wield. Back on the ship, Jalen removed his helmet, revealing the scars that told a story no one at the Velari court could yet read. Lines of past battles, faint burns, and bruises formed a map of survival and resilience. His eyes, steady and alert, betrayed nothing of the calculation behind them. No Velari had yet seen this truth, and in that moment Jalen understood the value of concealment. Armor was not just protection, it was strategy. He moved to the observation deck, gazing at the violet towers below. The city pulsed with life, and he knew that beneath its beauty lay political minds waiting to be triggered. Every noble, every observer, every glance carried weight. Humans were outsiders here, yes, but outsiders could shift the balance. Jalen's thoughts were interrupted by a soft alert from his armor's AI. It had detected a small anomaly in the lower docking bay, a minor security breach, likely a test from someone in the court. He did not react immediately, instead observing. Every gesture, every calculation mattered. Humans could not match the precision of Velari technology, but they could outthink it, and he intended to. As night fell over the violet planet, the orbital court shimmered like a living constellation. Jalen stood alone on the observation deck, helmet removed, armor glowing faintly. He was human, yet more than human when concealed by his armor. The court did not know it, but the first step of a long and dangerous game had begun. The princess had seen only a fraction of what he could do. The armor had hidden his true capabilities, his emotions, and his humanity. Yet in the shadows of the Velari city, Jalen understood a simple truth. The moment would come when concealment would no longer serve him. When that time arrived, the truth beneath the armor would speak louder than any machine, strategy, or diplomatic word. And when it did, humans would be remembered, not for their armor, but for their courage, unpredictability, and the spark that no alien could replicate. And so, Commander Jalen Rourke, human, armored, and unreadable, began his delicate dance at the heart of an alien empire, unaware of how quickly the mask would be challenged, yet certain that the human spirit beneath it was ready for whatever awaited. The morning light of the Velari capital washed over Commander Jalen Rourke as he prepared to leave his ship. The city below sparkled like a sea of stars trapped in crystal towers. From this height, the alien courtiers moving along suspended walkways looked almost like delicate insects, their graceful motions precise and controlled. Yet Jalen knew that precision hid danger. Every movement in the court had purpose, and every whisper could carry schemes. He adjusted the plating on his armor, feeling the familiar weight settle against his body. The armor had become more than protection. It was a second skin, a language in itself. To the Velari, he was perfection in motion, a being they could not fully read. He had learned to move with confidence, letting the AI subtly guide micro-gestures, keeping his expressions minimal but intentional. In their eyes, he seemed flawless. In reality, he was calculating, aware, and ready for anything. Elara's chambers awaited him. The princess, as he had learned in the first day, had a way of commanding attention without raising her voice. Jalen had observed her closely, noting how she read the room, how her eyes caught details others missed. She was sharp, cunning, and unrelenting. She would test him, and he needed to anticipate every challenge. The walk through the court was tense. Nobles approached him, some with polite greetings, others with subtle tests. One, a Velari with arms like crystal blades, leaned close. "Your armor conceals much," he said, voice like wind over glass. "But even a machine can fail. Are you confident in your human abilities?" He entered a wide hall where Elara awaited, seated on a platform that elevated her above the courtiers. Her presence was commanding, yet she made no overt motion to signal that he should kneel. Jalen chose to remain standing, allowing the subtle tilt of his head to signal respect. "Commander Rourke," she said, her voice smooth, melodic, carrying authority. "You walk among us, armored and unreadable, yet humans are known for their unpredictability. I wonder, will you surprise us with ingenuity or folly?" The truth was layered beneath his armor, scars from battles the Velari could not imagine, knowledge of tactics they had never faced, and the stubbornness that defined humanity. Elara's eyes narrowed slightly, and a faint smile crossed her lips. "We shall see." Her attention returned to the court, signaling subtle changes in discussion and posture. Courtiers whispered among themselves. She had noticed something in him, something human, alive, and dangerous. Over the next few hours, Jalen observed court proceedings. He learned quickly that diplomacy here was a game of precision and subtlety. Alliances were formed through gestures, not words. Loyalties were tested through silence and observation. Every noble sought an advantage, and humans were unpredictable factors in this equation. A small commotion drew his attention. In a hallway lined with crystalline walls, a Velari envoy attempted to approach a human diplomat, a gesture of goodwill, yet his movements were calculated to provoke subtle reactions. Jalen watched quietly. Humans were rare here. Any visible flaw or hesitation could be exploited. He decided to intervene, stepping forward, armor gleaming under the violet light. "Perhaps we should allow courtesy to proceed without test," he said calmly. The envoy's multiple eyes widened slightly, caught off guard by a human speaking with measured authority. Jalen's armor hid his emotions, but his words carried intention. Diplomacy, he had learned, was about timing, tone, and subtle display of confidence. The envoy hesitated, recalculating. In the brief pause, Jalen's presence spoke louder than words. The other diplomats watching noted the quiet command in the human stance, the way he projected both respect and power without overt dominance. Ilara's gaze flickered with interest. Humans, she realized, could convey influence without adhering to her rigid codes of court conduct. Later, Jalen was escorted to a private chamber adjacent to the princess's quarters. Here, the air felt different, lighter, yet charged with observation. Ilara had requested a closer discussion, though the purpose was unclear. "You move through this court with confidence, Commander," she began, voice soft but deliberate. "Yet you hide much beneath your armor. I wonder, is it caution or concealment?" Sometimes concealment is the wiser choice when every observer seeks advantage. It could hide scars, suppress gestures, and even modulate the tone of his voice. But instinct, intuition, the flashes of decision that came without thought, they could not be hidden. Jalen had learned to temper these, to allow them to show subtly enough to intrigue but not enough to betray. "I imagine you are correct," he finally said, voice neutral. "The human mind is never entirely concealed. It reacts, adapts, and improvises. Sometimes that is our advantage, sometimes it is our flaw." He was controlled, calculated, yet unmistakably human beneath the armor. Their discussion continued, drifting from politics to philosophy. Ilara asked about human concepts of courage, leadership, and survival. Jalen spoke carefully, balancing honesty with the need for discretion. He knew too much could be dangerous. Velari minds were sharp, and too much knowledge of human potential might make them wary or hostile. As they spoke, Jalen's armor subtly adjusted. Sensors monitored his heart rate, his micro-expressions, even the temperature of his skin. It ensured that the princess could not perceive fatigue, doubt, or fear. Yet her eyes caught faint hints of something beneath the perfection, moments where human instinct broke through, subtle and unassuming. Hours passed in this way, a careful dance of words and observation. By the afternoon, the princess had asked him to demonstrate a tactical scenario, a simulation of a potential interstellar threat. The Velari expected precision, control, and obedience to procedure. Jalen accepted without hesitation. The simulation was a holographic display, a miniature galaxy projected in 3 dimensions. Alien fleets moved with perfect discipline, responding to programmed scenarios. Jalen observed, then made adjustments, introducing human improvisation. The result was startling. Fleets repositioned in ways the Velari did not anticipate, maneuvers impossible for their minds to predict, yet effective in solving the scenario. The room went silent. Courtiers whispered in astonishment. Ilara's eyes glimmered with something resembling approval. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but also capable of brilliance that no machine or alien protocol could replicate. She had expected competence, she had not expected creativity. "You improvise where others follow protocol," she said finally. Her voice carried fascination. "It is dangerous yet effective. Humans may be more capable than we have assumed. Sometimes it is our liability." The Velari court had underestimated humans for centuries, viewing them as emotional, reckless, and illogical. Yet here he was, armored, unreadable, and demonstrating traits that could not be predicted or controlled. Armor could conceal, yes, but the truth of human ingenuity and adaptability was emerging quietly through controlled action and careful interaction. As evening approached, the court emptied, leaving only shadows and flickering light. Jalen returned to his ship, reflecting on the day. The Velari had seen only a fraction of what humans were capable of. His armor had given him the advantage of concealment, yet it had not been enough to hide the sparks of human instinct that had emerged in the simulation. Princess Elara's gaze lingered in his memory, sharp and questioning. She had noted the subtle signs, and he suspected she would not forget them. Humans were strange, unpredictable, and sometimes brilliant. She had begun to understand that beneath the armor, a mind capable of things she could not fully anticipate existed. Jalen sat in his ship's observation deck, reviewing the data from the simulation. Each movement, each decision was catalogued not for vanity, but for preparation. The Velari had underestimated humans. That misjudgment could be turned into an advantage. He allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Armor had protected him, yes, but it was human creativity and adaptability that would ultimately define his presence in this court. The night sky above the Velari city shimmered with distant stars. Jalen Rourke, armored and unmasked in thought, understood one truth with absolute clarity. The court would test him in ways he could not yet imagine, but he was ready. The armor would conceal, and the human mind would improvise. Together, they would make the Velari see what humans were truly capable of. And somewhere in the palace, Princess Elara was thinking the same thought. This human was unlike any she had encountered before, a force of unpredictability and potential that could not be ignored. The first day of intrigue had ended, but the game was only beginning. The calm of the Velari capital was shattered in the early hours before the artificial sunrise. Jalen Rourke had been reviewing simulations in his ship when the warning lights of the orbital court flashed red. The armor's sensors indicated an anomaly. Multiple small crafts had breached the outer perimeter of the city. At first glance, they appeared to be scouts, but their erratic movement suggested intent far more dangerous. Jalen's instincts tightened. Humans had learned to react quickly in chaos, to see patterns where others saw only disorder. He activated the armor's tactical interface and analyzed the intruders. They were alien raiders, small but heavily armed, equipped with technology designed to exploit Velari defenses. It was an unexpected assault, perhaps a test, or an attack designed to sow fear. Either way, it was now his responsibility to respond. He moved swiftly, exiting the ship and taking position at the central platform. The Velari court, usually serene and orderly, was now in panic. Courtiers skittered along walkways, some signaling security, others attempting to maintain composure. The armored humans were rare enough, but seeing one move with calm precision in the midst of chaos was unsettling. Elara appeared on her observation deck, her expression unreadable. "Commander Rourke," she said, voice steady but sharp. "The court needs guidance. The outer defenses will hold for only minutes. Can you lead?" Automated turrets activated, tracking the incoming raiders with precision. Jalen coordinated every move, blending human intuition with machine assistance. The Velari had never faced a human directing them like this. The novelty of his approach created tension in their ranks, but also hope. The first wave of attackers struck with a suddenness that would have caught any unprepared force off guard. Jalen reacted instantly, moving with the fluidity of a predator. His armor absorbed impacts, redirected kinetic energy, and allowed him to counterattack. He moved from platform to platform, issuing commands and neutralizing threats in ways the Velari did not anticipate. Every maneuver combined logic with instinct. The human's improvisation was evident, even under the guise of armor. Elara watched intently. The armored human before her was more than a soldier. He was a strategist, anticipating threats and exploiting weaknesses. She could see the subtle adjustments, the instant calculations, and the controlled risk. Yet there was something unmistakably human in the way he reacted, not a machine's flawless repetition, but adaptive decision-making. As the battle progressed, Jalen's armor absorbed a direct hit from a larger raider craft. Sparks flew, panels cracked, and systems flickered. For the first time, the perfection of his facade was broken. The Velari watching from the observation decks gasped. They had thought him invulnerable, machine-like, untouchable. Now they saw that even a human in armor had limits. Jalen's mind raced, unimpeded by panic. Systems faltered, but his instincts were sharper than ever. He adjusted his stance, using the damaged plating to redirect energy and shield critical areas. He was slower, heavier, yet every move was deliberate. Every decision carried the weight of experience and survival. The armor no longer concealed his vulnerability. His human skill became the difference between success and failure. He reached the central command node where the raiders had begun focusing their attack. With a calculated leap, he disabled the nearest assault drone, using an improvised method no Velari protocol would consider. The crowd watching saw brilliance, but they also saw imperfection, humanity in action. The Velari princess descended to a closer platform, her curiosity fully engaged. For the first time, she saw not just the armor, but the human behind it. The visor had been damaged in the assault, revealing part of Jalen's face. Scars marred his skin, lines of past battles etched deep. Sweat ran along his brow. His eyes were wide and alert, alive with determination and focus. It was the first unmasked glimpse the court had of him. The effect was immediate. The nobles, who had treated humans as curiosities, were forced to confront the truth. Humans were not machines, nor were they merely clever. They were resilient, adaptable, and unafraid of danger in ways the Velari could barely comprehend. Ilara's eyes narrowed, not in judgment but in recognition. The human before her was fully exposed, physically and mentally, yet there was no faltering. The scars, the exposed skin, the visible effort, none of it diminished his control. In fact, it amplified his presence. Humans survived because they endured, and endurance was now visible in every movement Jalen made. The battle reached a critical point. The raiders concentrated on the palace tower, seeking to incapacitate leadership. Jalen assessed the situation, calculating the odds. Traditional Velari tactics would have failed. He improvised, rerouting energy barriers and creating a corridor that funneled attackers into a trap. Ilara, watching, realized the genius of human improvisation. Where Velari thought with calculation, humans thought with intuition and adaptability. She had underestimated them. The armored human before her was alive, fully aware, and capable of actions no protocol could predict. Jalen moved through the trap, neutralizing raiders with precision, using a combination of armor enhancements and sheer physical skill. Every motion was deliberate, every strike calculated. Yet there was spontaneity, an instinctual rhythm that no machine could replicate. The court and the princess watched as he turned vulnerability into advantage. At the climax of the battle, a larger raider craft descended directly toward the central platform. Jalen had seconds to react. The armor was damaged, his systems impaired, but his mind was sharp. He leapt onto the platform, deploying an improvised energy pulse that destabilized the craft. Sparks, flames, and smoke erupted, yet the city remained intact. The raiders retreated, leaving the orbital court intact but shaken. Jalen stood in the midst of the aftermath, armor scorched, visor shattered, panels hanging loose. Every scar, every line of fatigue was visible. The court remained silent, awed, and unsettled. Ilara descended to his level, stepping carefully among the wreckage. "Commander Rourke," she said, voice low but firm, "you faced the impossible and prevailed. The Velari have underestimated humans for centuries. I see now that we have done so at our peril." Humans were no longer curiosities or potential threats. They were beings of remarkable resilience, capable of ingenuity and courage that exceeded expectation. Ilara's gaze lingered on him. The armor had concealed his truth, but its removal revealed more than vulnerability. It revealed the essence of humanity: resilience, intelligence, and courage. She understood now that humans were not merely unpredictable. They were formidable in ways that no Velari could replicate. Jalen, despite the visible damage, did not stagger or falter. Every step he took demonstrated control, every glance suggested calculation. He had faced overwhelming odds and relied not on perfection, but on human adaptability and instinct. That was his true armor, the one no machine could provide and one no alien court had expected. As calm returned to the city, Jalen took a moment to survey the damage. The Velari palace, though battered, remained standing. Security systems were being restored, and nobles resumed cautious activity, yet the impression of human capability lingered. The court had witnessed a moment that would be remembered, a human, unarmored in spirit, demonstrating skill, courage, and ingenuity. Ilara approached him again. "Commander," she said softly, "your armor hid much, but it is the human beneath that has left the lasting mark. I have underestimated your species. I will not make that mistake again." "It is not the armor, princess, that defines us. It is what we do when the armor fails." As he returned to his temporary quarters, armor partially repaired, Jalen reflected on the battle. The damage to his suit had been a revelation, a forced exposure of human truth. For centuries, humans had relied on technology and armor to supplement skill. Today, he had reminded an entire alien court that human ingenuity was more than metal and circuits. It was instinct, courage, and unpredictability. Princess Elara, watching from her private observation deck, pondered the human who had faced near-certain defeat and emerged triumphant. She realized that humans could not be fully understood or controlled. Their value lay in the unexpected, the instinctual, and the brave. Jalen had shown her a glimpse of that truth, and she knew it would influence her perspective for the rest of her life. The night settled over the Velari capital once more, but the echoes of the day's events lingered. Jalen, scarred and unmasked in battle, had proven that humans were more than the sum of their technology. They were resilient, adaptable, and formidable. Armor concealed the body, but courage and ingenuity revealed the truth. And in that revelation, both human and Velari understood something new. The galaxy had underestimated humans, but it would do so no longer. The sky over the Velari capital was still glowing from the aftermath of the raid, but calm had only just returned when new alerts began flashing on the orbital court's monitors. Jalen Rourke was still in his damaged armor, every panel scorched from the previous fight. He had patched what he could, but it remained imperfect, a reminder that humans were now relying not on perfect protection, but on their own instincts. The alarms were different this time, larger, more urgent. Sensors indicated multiple fleets approaching from deep space, moving with coordination and speed that suggested intelligence and strategy. This was no minor raid. It was a fleet capable of threatening not just the orbital court, but the entire system. Jalen stood at the observation deck, visor removed now, fully exposed. His face bore the streaks of battle and fatigue, but his eyes were sharp and alert. The Velari court had witnessed his courage, and now it would be tested in a larger, more dangerous way. Princess Elara appeared beside him, her expression tense. "Commander Rourke," she said quietly, "this fleet, our scanners cannot determine its origin. But preliminary scans suggest weapons capable of destroying our orbital defenses within hours. We will need your leadership if we are to survive." "We cannot wait for them to reach the city," he said. "We need to intercept before they enter the system. Their formation suggests coordination, but it also leaves gaps we can exploit." The Velari had superior technology, but their tactics were rigid, based on protocol and probability. Jalen's mind worked differently. He considered unpredictability, deception, and improvisation. He assigned fleets to mimic standard defensive positions, then introduced decoy ships, false signals, and unexpected maneuvers designed to confuse the enemy. The Velari generals murmured among themselves, uneasy with the departure from standard procedure. Jalen noticed their hesitation but ignored it. In war, hesitation could be fatal. Humans had survived countless battles not because they followed rules perfectly, but because they adapted in the moment. The enemy fleet entered range. From orbit, it appeared vast and menacing black shapes against the violet glow of the capital planet. Sensors registered weapons capable of mass destruction, and the Velari court felt the pressure immediately. The court nobles looked to the princess, and then to Jalen, who stood calm amidst the chaos. Elara's voice carried steady over the comms. "Commander, we are ready to follow your strategy." He directed Velari squadrons into positions that seemed exposed, inviting the enemy in. As predicted, the raiders took the bait, moving into a corridor of Velari energy fields. Then Jalen triggered the decoys. Holographic ships appeared alongside the real ones, forcing the enemy to split their focus. The initial attack faltered. The Velari fighters, guided by his commands, struck back with precision, exploiting gaps in the enemy formation. The battle was chaos, but Jalen thrived in chaos. His damaged armor limited mobility, yet it did not limit his mind. He moved through the command deck, issuing instructions, coordinating both fleets and city defenses. Every moment required calculation, improvisation, and decisiveness. Princess Elara observed, increasingly impressed. The human before her had been unmasked once physically, and now his mind was exposed in full view. He was not just surviving, he was leading a coalition against overwhelming odds. His courage and intellect were undeniable. The second wave of enemy ships arrived, larger and more heavily armed. Jalen saw the pattern immediately. They were not just fighters, but part of a larger strategy. They sought to divide and conquer, striking weak points first. He adjusted the Velari formations, anticipating the shifts, introducing traps within traps. An enemy battleship closed in on the Capitol Tower, its weapons charging for a devastating strike. Jalen knew that direct confrontation would risk massive destruction. Instead, he devised an unorthodox maneuver. Using damaged panels on his armor, he interfaced directly with the Velari energy network, redirecting the city's defenses to create an energy pulse at the precise moment the ship fired. The blast disrupted the enemy weapons, forcing the battleship off course. The Velari generals gasped. No human should have been able to manipulate the city's defenses so precisely, yet Jalen had done it, relying on intuition, knowledge, and improvisation. The enemy fleet began to falter under the combined assault of Velari precision and human unpredictability. Elara's eyes softened slightly, reflecting admiration. "Your species, it is unlike any we have faced. You combine courage, intellect, and adaptability in ways even we cannot predict." He guided the Velari ships into positions that blocked escape routes, forcing the enemy to scatter or face total destruction. The smaller ships were neutralized with precision strikes, while larger vessels were incapacitated using energy traps and misdirection. Hours passed in this relentless engagement. Jalen's armor, though damaged, continued to function, protecting him while allowing full mobility. His mind never stopped calculating, analyzing, and adjusting. Each enemy action was met with counteraction, every predictable move met with a creative response. Finally, the enemy fleet was forced to retreat beyond sensor range, leaving the Velari capital safe but shaken. The Velari court erupted in cautious applause. The humans among them, few in number, watched with pride. Jalen had demonstrated what humans had always known: courage, creativity, and adaptability could overcome even superior technology. Princess Elara descended to the command deck. Her expression was thoughtful, her eyes reflecting a mixture of respect and curiosity. "Commander Rourke," she said, voice low but firm, "you have changed my perception of your species. You are not merely unpredictable, you are formidable, even when exposed and vulnerable. The Velari underestimated humans, and I will not allow that to happen again. Humans have survived because we adapt, endure, and improvise. Armor conceals the body, but it cannot conceal ingenuity, courage, or determination." The court, once skeptical of human potential, now whispered in awe. Humans were no longer curiosities. They were allies, strategists, and heroes. Jalen had proven that even when stripped of perfection, humans could turn vulnerability into strength. That night, as the city's artificial sky shifted from violet to deep indigo, Jalen stood at the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The enemy fleet had retreated, but the galaxy was vast and full of unknown threats. He knew this was only the beginning. Humans would be challenged again, but their greatest weapons were already clear: adaptability, courage, and ingenuity. Elara joined him, silent for a moment before speaking. "I underestimated humans for too long. You have shown me that strength is not measured by perfection, but by what lies beneath it. I will remember this lesson, Commander." Jalen understood that humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer uncertain. Armor could hide the truth for a time, but it was courage, adaptability, and human spirit that would define the future. In the silence of the night, both human and Velari realized something profound. Humans were not merely survivors, they were catalysts, capable of changing the course of events with creativity and willpower. And in the presence of Princess Elara, that truth had been revealed in full. The battle was over, but the alliance it forged, the recognition of human ingenuity, would shape the coming days. Jalen Rourke, scarred, unmasked in spirit, and fully human, had proven that even against overwhelming odds, humanity could rise, adapt, and triumph. The Velari capital glowed with renewed life after the retreat of the enemy fleet. Its towers, once silent and cautious, now pulsed with energy as citizens and nobles moved with purpose. The city had survived, but the memory of the battle lingered like a shadow. Commander Jalen Rourke stood on the observation deck, visor removed, his armor scarred and battered. Every panel bore the marks of battle, every scratch a testament to survival and human ingenuity. Princess Elara joined him in silence, her gaze fixed on the horizon where the enemy fleet had vanished. The sun, or rather the artificial star, cast long beams across the crystalline towers, reflecting light in every direction. The beauty of the city belied the chaos that had just passed, but it also reflected the resilience of those who defended it. "You have changed the perception of humans in this court," Elara said finally, her voice quiet but firm. "Your species is no longer underestimated. You have proven that courage and ingenuity can rival the precision of even the most advanced technology." She had seen him armored, unarmored in spirit, and now scarred from battle. Every mark on his body told a story, every motion spoke of experience, calculation, and resilience. She realized that humans were not merely unpredictable, they were formidable, alive in a way that technology alone could not replicate. The princess gestured toward the city. We must rebuild defenses, yes, but we must also consider alliances. Your actions today have shown the potential of partnership between Velari and humans. I propose an official alliance. Together, we can prepare for threats we cannot yet see. Together, our species can endure and thrive. He spoke not arrogantly, but with quiet authority, outlining strategies, possibilities, and the ways human adaptability could complement Velari precision. Elara observed closely, occasionally interjecting to support his points. Together, they demonstrated a partnership built on trust, respect, and recognition of each other's strengths. The assembly ended with formal acceptance of the alliance, a historic moment that would be remembered throughout the galaxy. Despite the success, Jalen knew the galaxy was vast and filled with unknown dangers. The enemy fleet had been only the first wave of challenges he would face. But humans thrived in uncertainty. It was their nature to face the unknown with courage and improvisation. The alliance with the Velari was not just strategic. It was an acknowledgement that humanity's unique strengths could influence the galaxy's future. In the quiet moments after the assembly, Jalen and Elara walked through the city, observing the rebuilding efforts. Civilians moved with purpose, repairing damage, restoring structures, and tending to the wounded. The Velari had been shocked by the human contribution, but they were learning quickly. Jalen explained subtle tactics, improvisational methods, and the mindset that allowed humans to adapt under pressure. Elara listened intently, her admiration deepening. She had seen humans in battle before, but now she understood their resilience and creativity at a deeper level. Jalen was a symbol of what humans could achieve when unmasked, when allowed to act without limitation, and when trusted as partners rather than threats. "Your species is remarkable," Elara said as they paused atop a bridge connecting two towers. "You endure, adapt, and innovate. I have never seen such determination in any race, no matter how advanced. The armor may conceal, but the truth beneath it is undeniable. Humans are unpredictable, yes, but also invaluable. You have earned respect not only through technology, but through your courage and adaptability." The Velari learned to appreciate the subtle brilliance of human improvisation, while humans gained insight into advanced technology and strategic coordination. The alliance was more than political. It was a blending of philosophy, strategy, and culture. One evening, as the artificial sky turned a deep indigo, Elara found Jalen on the observation deck, reflecting quietly on the day's events. "Commander," she began, her tone soft, "you have changed my view of humans permanently. I once believed you were unpredictable and dangerous, yet I see now that your spirit is extraordinary. Armor conceals, but courage reveals." Jalen's armor had once concealed the truth, but the trials of battle had unveiled it fully. His scars, his decisions, his resilience, all visible now, demonstrated what humans were capable of when they faced adversity with determination and ingenuity. Jalen reflected on the journey that had brought him here. The arrival at the court, the initial tests of diplomacy, the ambush, the battle against the enemy fleet, and now the recognition of humanity's potential. Every step had required strategy, courage, and sometimes improvisation. Every moment had proven that humans, though flawed, could rise to challenges no one expected. Elara stepped closer. "There is one more thing," she said. "Humans have taught us that strength is not only measured in technology or strategy, but in spirit. The Velari will remember this lesson because of you. You have earned our respect and our trust." "That is all." The court began to see humans not as curiosities or potential threats, but as partners. Jalen's presence had transformed perceptions, not through arrogance or force, but through courage, ingenuity, and resilience. One evening, as Jalen walked the upper platforms of the city, he paused to look at the stars. The galaxy was vast, full of unknown challenges, but he no longer felt isolated. Humans had allies now, and the Velari had learned the value of humanity. It was a beginning, an understanding that together, different species could face threats that no single race could withstand alone. Elara appeared beside him once more, her eyes reflecting the glow of the city. "You have taught us a valuable lesson, Commander," she said softly. "Humans endure not because of perfection, but because of spirit. The Velari will not forget this. The Velari and humans had faced a threat together and survived, but more importantly, they had learned from one another. The unpredictability of humanity had been revealed, and it was a strength the galaxy would have to reckon with. Elara's gaze softened, thoughtful. You have shown us that humans are more than we imagined. You have proven that courage and spirit matter as much as technology or strategy. We will remember this lesson, Commander Rourke. Stars glittered above, distant and endless, yet full of possibility. The battle had ended, the enemy had retreated, and the alliance had been forged. But beyond victory and recognition, the true triumph was revealed. The human spirit, unmasked, resilient, and courageous, had claimed its place in the galaxy. The night was calm now, but the future held countless challenges. Jalen Rourke, scarred and unmasked in body and spirit, understood that humanity had proven itself. Not through weapons or machines, but through the qualities that no alien could predict: adaptability, ingenuity, courage, and unyielding spirit. Princess Elara stood beside him, quietly acknowledging the truth. The Velari had witnessed the power of humanity firsthand, and it would forever change how they saw the galaxy and themselves. The armor had concealed the truth once, but when it was no longer needed, humanity's strength had revealed itself fully. And that revelation would endure far longer than any battle, any fleet, or any star system could ever threaten. The galaxy had underestimated humans. No longer,